Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today on Realty Check. We are still in our series where we're talking about all these projects you can do on your home. This is a series directed for homeowners or people that are looking to buy a home and out shopping for homes that want to know what things that they can do to their home, what projects they can face, how to handle questions and projects that they might have coming up, and answers and sources for everything. So thank you for joining us for this series. And if you've been watching us throughout the last few weeks, you've seen we've had a lot of great guests on the show, and we have another great guest today to talk about everything outside, your landscaping. So today we have Walker Landscape Maintenance, Kane Norton, joining us here local in Las Vegas. So Kane, thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes. So Kane, tell us a little bit about your company, yourself, and what you do.
So I was born and raised in Las Vegas.
Yes, good.
So I'm a native. What the company does, we run around 50 employees. Half the business we do maintenance, HOA maintenance, commercial, some of the higher end homes. We really don't get into the smaller homes. But the other part of business is design construction. And we can go into a house, a newly purchased house. I personally, I'm the sales guy, so I meet with the customers and we go over the budgets and the ideas and see what they want to do. And then, of course, I provide a free estimate for them. On the used homes, of course, as you know, they're selling quite a bit. We go in, same thing, get them ideas on renovations, do the full design for them, and again go through the budgets and hopefully meet or exceed their budget, and then we go in and do the work.
That's awesome. So this is a big deal. I know when I got my home and I'm looking at the backyard, it's like you have this vision, but you don't even know the first step on what to do to make it happen. So that's when they call you, right? You say, this is what I want to do. This is kind of the vision of what I want. How do I make that look good? And how do I make it happen?
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. Now, we do everything landscaping, which includes pavers, artificial grass, of course, trees, shrubs, irrigation, rock.
So they don't have to call 20 different people to get their backyard project done.
That's right. And some things that we don't do, I always give out referrals. I have people I work with that build the barbecues, that do the swimming pools,
do you?
That do the covers. So we're pretty tight-knit, organization where we work with all different contractors that do different things. So.
Okay. Yeah, backyard retreat is not complete without the barbecue, the fire pit, the pool. There's a lot that needs to go into it these days.
Absolutely. And the outdoor living space, I think, for me is the most important, especially here in the Valley. Of course, not when it's 120, but most of the rest of the year, I think I spend more time outside sitting on the couch watching TV than I do inside.
Yeah, it's nicer. And even when it is super hot outside, if you have kind of the right environment, there's definitely a lot of backyards I've been in where the heat doesn't matter. It's definitely comfortable. It's definitely nice. It feels like you're somewhere else. So, especially with a pool too. But there's, it's not only your backyard's like your outdoor retreat, your space, your getaway space, your relaxation space, and your front yard is your curb appeal. That's the first thing people see when they come up. So both of those things are very important to your home, your lifestyle, how you live, everything. And having those the way that you want them the right way is great. So, you design on new construction. So you said that as far as maintenance, like weekly maintenance, let's talk a little bit about that, even though you don't do that residential. How important is that for people to keep up on their weekly maintenance?
Well, it's very important. And I think even, it's important to keep the HOA from writing new letters, of course.
Yes.
But I think most important are the, understanding the irrigation system. I think for each tenant and homeowner, they should really understand with what's, how the irrigation system works, how the clocks work. Know that, and I know we're going to touch on the conservation part of it, but that is really, I think, important
It is.
Making sure that the shrubs are trimmed properly, making sure the suckers on the trees are trimmed off, and making sure that the emitters are putting out the amount of water they're supposed to.
Yes, and that's such a hard thing to, I guess, to figure out. So before I ever owned a home, I always lived places and it was like, yeah, the sprinklers turn on, they turn off, who knows what goes on between there. But once you become a homeowner, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I want to make sure that none of these things are dying, none of my trees are dying. And I have, I walk my yard myself, just at least once a week, once every couple weeks, and turn on the bubblers and all of our system just to make sure there's nothing, no extra water squirting up everywhere. Everything's getting water the way it should be, because it is like a constant, someone has to constantly look at it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when we complete a yard, I make it a point to go back to the yard at the end of the project and meet with the homeowner, and I literally will stand back behind the controller and I'll tell them to set it, because you know how it is. If you don't do it yourself, you can watch me all day long, but you're still not going to learn the clock. So I try to emphasize that. I do a walk through the irrigation system. When we do our drip systems, we put a flush cap at the end, and I tell the homeowners, look, every 6 months, pull the cap off, flush the water out. That'll keep your emitters from clogging.
Oh, I
think the biggest problem that I see when I come to homes that are 10, 20, 30 years old is there's a mosh posh of emitters. So I think that's important. How much water is really going out of those emitters and going to the plant?
So if somebody, if that is an issue, which I think it's an issue in my house, because it's an older home, and there's been multiple owners and just lots of different things done. What did they do? Would they contact you and have that whole system redone?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we can come in and I can do a full assessment and say, okay, here's what I think. And I'm not going to sell them a whole new system if they don't need it.
Right.
If it's just a matter of, hey, 10 of these shrubs have emitters that are putting out too much water or not enough water, we'll just change those out for them. Again, we typically run on a minimum, but for that, if we're doing an assessment on it, or if the drip tubing, remember the poly tubing has a lifespan of probably 10 to 15 to 20 years. So, so it starts splitting, and usually once it starts splitting, it continues. So yeah, that absolutely is something that we do.
Okay, good. Yeah, and I know that's the thing with HOAs. You said you do HOAs and stuff like that, and I see that even in our community park. It's, it was built in the 90s. So in the community park, everything's starting to burst up everywhere. Yep. And that is, it just needs a new system. It's probably the poly tubing is too old.
You're correct.
Yes, and then new construction projects. Every time when you buy a brand new home, it comes with a dirt backyard. So you can basically go in there and tell them, what if people have no ideas? What if they just say, I don't know what to do about this, but I have to do something, because they only have 6 months to a year to do something
Absolutely.
with it.
And those are the ideas that I provide them. I've had multiple customers come to me and say, Kane, you may have not been the cheapest, but your ideas and the things that you presented and was made the difference. And I think that's important. I'm not just there to sell a job. I really want to make sure at the end of the day that new homeowners are as happy with the inside of the house or the outside of the house as they are with the inside.
Right, of course, yeah. And you don't, most homeowners don't want just like rocks or gravel or something. What's that? You're not going to do anything with it. You can't even walk on it. Pets can't walk on it. So
that's right.
So you want to have some options.
Yes.
And with that, you do so if someone were to put in a pool or something like that, you would help them design that area and that space around it.
Yeah, typically the pool companies will do a design for the pool area, but I have customers that have big side yards and that the pool doesn't entail. But we work with the pool companies, even if it's not a pool company that referred me, but I've done plenty of work with homeowners that hire the pool company separate. So I always encourage people to, when they are getting the bids for the pool, because some pool companies do the landscaping and the pool, is to have them break that out. And because, like I said, sometimes, more times than not, we can beat the prices and again come up with some of those ideas that maybe the pool company didn't.
Yeah, because the pool, it's not just having a pool in your backyard, but it's the whole space surrounding the pool that just makes it all perfect.
Yes.
Now, what is the most popular things that you're seeing these days as far as trends? Things are changing.
Things are changing.
Yes.
You know, and it's and what happens in our business is we get all these people from other places, Southern California, for example, and they come here and they go, I want a jungle in my, or I wanted, you know, and I just have to remind them that we are in the middle of the Mojave Desert. So,
Good luck watering that jungle.
So, and it's not that some of those plants won't make it. It's location is key. You know, a lot of people want succulents. Succulents are very difficult to keep outside, as you know.
Are they?
They are.
Okay.
They really are. I mean, you've really got to have a separate system. People that want the cactus, I'm doing one right now where we're providing a full valve and a system just for the cactus, and then one for the rest of the shrubs, and then one for the trees. So again, you've got to look at it, location, and what is really feasible.
Right.
You know.
And that does make sense. I have I have a bunch of drippers stuff all over the yard, and then I have these fruit trees, and I feel like they need a separate system. And they probably do. I never even thought about it that way. They probably need their own system because they're not getting, they should have a different type of watering than the rest of
Absolutely.
the stuff.
You're absolutely 100% complete.
Yeah.
And location of the fruit trees are key. I mean, protection. It's not, the heat of the summer is not what kills the fruit trees and the citrus. It's the cold of the winter.
Oh, really?
Because we get so hot and so cold. So location, protection. When I meet with a homeowner, they'll say, "Oh, I want this Myers lemon tree over here on the north side," and I said, "Well, it'll do better on the south side with the protection of the wall," or it's just examples like that that are key. I don't want to just put a plan in. I'm not gonna put your canary palm in 2 feet from your pool decking, and then in 5 years you're having to pull it out because it's lifting the pool decking. So it's being smart about where locations and looking at the future.
Yeah. And what is that when it comes to like fruit trees and things like that? What do you think are the best choices for our environment?
Well, there's, believe it or not, a lot of fruit trees do make it here.
Yeah.
I mean, the peach, the pears,
Apricots.
the apricots. The citrus trees will.
Yeah.
Orange trees, sometimes they'll produce it. Again, it's
Every time I
location.
planted an orange tree, it's died on me.
It's grapefruit does very well. I mean,
really?
there's a lot that, again, location, and you can't just plant it and let it go. I mean, you really have to fertilize it. You've got to feed it, and fertilizing is probably a real important. I mean, we've got to remember we're in the desert. We're sand and gravel or clay. There's no nutrients in our soil, so it's important to get those nutrients in the soil.
Yeah. I've done that with this. This round of trees is probably my third. So these ones I'm really, really working hard to keep them alive. but they're doing good. It's almost a hobby for me. I just love like working on the garden. I found that artichokes grow very well here in the desert.
Wow.
They grow like weeds almost. but I have like a little vegetable garden
Nice.
and things like that. So I've kind of found what grows and what doesn't as far as like vegetables and edible stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, artichokes have done very well. Beets, radishes,
Yeah, wow.
Zucchinis, all of that stuff
Nice.
has done good too.
And
But
it's keeping the birds off of the trees, really. Once a tree goes, I mean, fig trees do outstanding here, but they can get so large that it literally will take you 2 days to pick the fruit off it, and usually the birds get to it before.
Right. Yeah, I have an almond tree that has never, I've seen them start, I've seen them almost ready, and then the birds get them right before they're ready to pick.
Yeah, it's funny. I just bid a house. It was up in older house. I think it was up in the Painted Desert area, and he had these beautiful apricot trees in the back, and the fruit was, I mean, I literally picked one off and ate it.
And it's perfect.
And
oh my gosh, you can't buy it at the store like that.
I said, of course, he said, take as many as you want, because he's tired of eating, his wife makes everything apricot. But I said, how in the heck are the birds haven't got to this? He goes, well, there's a hawk that lives up in up in one of the trees nearby, so they keep the birds away. They just
hire a hawk.
Yeah, hire a hawk. That's the point. But
Yeah.
but it's amazing, and unfortunately, this customer wants to remove them, which is a shame. I mean, they're 20-year-old.
Oh my
trees.
gosh.
But
That's why I'm trying to grow is apricot trees. There is nothing, you cannot buy them at the store as good as they grow here on the trees.
You're right.
They're very, very good. So, and they seem to grow very well here in Vegas.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
I mean, if they don't get eaten by the birds, you just got to be quick. You just got to be quick at it.
Yep.
So, one of the other things that is a big deal here in Vegas is conservation. I mean, we're running out of water, right? You keep on hearing about it on the news. I feel like people keep ignoring this fact, but every time we're boaters, we go out to Lake Mead, and every time we go out there and the water's dropped so much, it's scary.
Very scary.
Yes.
And I think they put in, I don't know what year, don't quote me on it, but I know that Sisolak had mentioned that by a certain year, any commercial site, only recreational. Now, I know that the water district's working on getting a citizen committee to define what recreational grass is. But yeah, that's going to be huge. And really, if you've got grass and you're struggling with it and you're tired of the water bills, certainly take advantage of the SNWA rebate. They give you $3 a square foot up to 5,000 square foot and $2 after that. So that's huge.
Yeah.
I've had some projects that covered the cost of the project, depending on what's there. Now, there's some requirements, and we're a water smart contractor, so we can certainly walk anybody through that wants to consider that. And you're not obligated. So even if you get approved by the water district, you're not obligated to do it.
You could just get approved, find out what you're working with, and get quotes on it.
That's right, and you have a year to do it. But again, you're not obligated to do it once you get approved from the water district. So I think that's important, and I think it's important for people to understand, and realtors to understand that the homeowner is signing a conservation easement that does get passed on to new buyers.
To the next homeowners. We actually, that is on our sellers for property disclosure.
Yep.
When a seller sells a home, they have to disclose if that's something that they did, because it is an easement, which means that those new buyers can't go and rip out all that desert landscape and put grass there.
But you can.
Really?
You just have to pay the money back.
Oh, well,
So
yeah.
It's not necessarily grass. I wouldn't recommend anybody taking it out and putting grass in, and that is. But if you've got a buyer that wants to put a pool in, that buyer can go back to the water district and pay for the section of that they want to put the pool in and pay an administrative fee.
I didn't realize that covered the pool as well. So if they had their whole backyard done with that water thing, the easement, and they decided they wanted to put a pool, there's part of that would.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. I always tell the homeowners that when they're looking to do the backyard, and maybe it's too much to do it. So I try to, but that's something that I wanted to make sure to mention. Because
Yeah, that's very important.
huge.
I didn't even realize that. I knew that they couldn't rip it out and put grass in, but I never thought about a pool.
Yeah.
That is a very important fact. And a lot of times, I mean, I have turf in my front yard where the grass used to be.
Yep.
And I have an HOA. It's a beautiful thing. You don't get letters from the HOA. You don't have yellow spots you're trying to stay on top of, because when you live in an HOA and you have grass, oh my gosh, it's crazy, right?
Absolutely.
You're constantly, especially during this season, trying to keep up with the grass or stay on top of it, because it's hard to keep grass green here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I wouldn't recommend anybody having grass in the front yard. It's in the times we're at, like you said, you go out to the lake and you see that lake is not.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's no, I mean, the grass in the front yard, there's nothing you do with it other than it sits there. I mean, I do understand. I do get like a small patch of grass in the backyard because kids, like to run, play on their feet. The artificial turf is super hot.
Yeah.
So until they figure out a solution for that, there's nothing like, just actual grass right there for like a play area. I get that. But yeah, in the front yard, there's no reason for it. It's just a waste of water.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What other things, do you think that are good things that that people could do for like real, I guess, water, like real hardy plants that can withstand the drought, that don't need a lot of water but look really pretty?
You know, people either love them or hate them, but I'm a fan of lantana.
I love lantana.
I mean,
they're so colorful.
You get a variety of colors, and they really don't take that much water.
Really?
Yeah, they'll take that full heat, that full afternoon heat. The sun in the afternoon is really what tears up our bushes and our plant material, because it's just so hot from 2, 3, 4 o'clock on. Mm-hmm. But I love the lantana. I love the Mexican redbird's paradise.
Do those grow well?
They do. Mm-hmm. They do over time.
They look so delicate.
They're very hardy. They do lose their leaves, just similar to the lantana in the winter. They're deciduous most of the time, depending on our winters. And you just simply cut them back one time a year at the end of winter, and then they do it all over.
With the lantanas, you can cut them like all the way down, and then they're a full bush again. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and you know, the red yuccas aren't bad. They're just. I like to do a mixture of the deciduous with some of the evergreens. You know, the bottle brush, and just so you don't, in the wintertime, you're not coming out to your yard and looking at a dead yard because it looks dead. So
I love the bottle brush too. They're so cute.
They're nice. And you know. And if you want to get into more of a cactus where you're not really going for the cactus, the desert spoon is not a bad one. And like I said, the red yucca, God knows. But yeah, it seems like a lot of the cactus are a lot more popular. People want to do the agaves, and we just got to understand there's maintenance to them. I mean, weevils get into those agaves and they're done. Oh. So it's, you know, I think when you're picking out plant material, you really try to understand these are the problems that are going to come with those. So they're not impossible, certainly, but you just understand that that's going to happen.
Right. I love the look of palm trees. They have this paradise look. They don't take a lot of water. They're great. They do great for decoration and everything, but they come with scorpions. Scorpions tend to live there. They don't come with them.
They hide with them. And sometimes they do. I mean, depending on where they come from. But I'm a huge fan of the Mediterranean fan palm.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That's my favorite, and that probably does the best here in our valley.
They don't need a lot of water.
They don't need a lot of water, and they're not a lot of maintenance. I mean, you just clean up the bottom rows of the fronds once a year, and that's all you have to do. I mean, I've got 5 of them in my yard, so I do like them. Yeah. The Mexican fan palms are nice too. They just grow real fast, and you've got to trim those once a year. Otherwise, pretty much most of them seed, and then you have to get them, and then before long, you have to hire a tree company to climb them and trim them. So, but we do have options. Yeah. You know, the queen palms, they'll live here in certain
Are the queen palms ones like big pineapples?
No, that's the one that does. But they tend to freeze, so you have to wrap them. There's some maintenance to them, but those are the canary palms.
Canary palms.
And it's important too when you're doing canary palms. Just what I tell people is have at least a 20-foot diameter for that palm.
Because they get big, they get wide,
They get big, and you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many we've had to remove that are lifting up driveways, lifting up pool decking, you know, and that. So it's important to understand where what plants go, you know, and what the locations in that. I think that's probably that's key.
Yeah,
it really is.
And what about handling these lifting issues? But I know the answer. You have to remove it, right? But how do you go about knowing that? Like, you know, like a big, huge, you know, you have a big, huge mesquite in your front yard, right? It's beautiful. It's huge. It's big. It's starting to cause problems. How do people go about assessing that? Is there any way of dealing with it without removing it? Can you cut back roots, or is removal the only option?
The thinning the tree out is important. I always tell customers, I said, if you're looking at the tree from the ground and you can't see the blue sky behind it, it's heavy. It's probably too heavy. The wind, in other words, the wind's going to blow, and it's not going to blow through it. It's going to blow it over.
Oh, and
So-
onto your house.
And onto your house, possibly. But really assessing that, and if you see a lot of blue through it, then it's thin enough. But just lightening the top of those trees is crucial. Now the mesquite trees, that's another beast. The mesquite trees, the issue that we have here in the valley with the mesquite trees are, people, when you plant a tree, you put, however many, 4 emitters around the base of that tree. Well, the tree 10, 15, 20 years later, people don't move those emitters out. So the mesquite tree roots aren't going to go anywhere unless there's water. So the roots stay right around the tree. That's why when we get bad winds, you drive around town, you'll see a lot
The
of mesquite
mesquites
trees
are always
all over.
always lifted, yeah, because they never let their roots spread out. But if they plant
right.
it too close to the house, you can't put them too much farther.
That's right. You've
Yeah.
got. So again, location and understanding the water. I mean, it's key to get those. So when we come in and redo irrigation systems, we'll put ring around the tree at the drip line. So people go, well, why do you have all these emitters, 6 feet from the trunk of the tree? I said, well, that's the drip line of the tree. That's where it wants to get its water, and that'll allow the roots to spread
And not
become
just be
more
stuck in one spot. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And the mesquite tree is well, I don't know if it's a native of Nevada, but when I was growing up, we would go in the desert and there was mesquite trees growing everywhere. Without
do.
any irrigation.
They do out in Pahrump. Yeah, we have that big open spot of land there, and just the mesquites grow freely, just all over. Yeah, so it's definitely. I think it is a native, and it doesn't need a lot of water.
No, it doesn't.
Another thing I see often is pine trees. So you see these in garden boxes that, like people have garden boxes or lined against their wall where they put these pine trees when they were small. And they were really nice when you space them a few feet against each other or away from each other. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
The lines that privacy wall.
Yep.
But then 20 years later, we have huge issues because those pine trees are huge and they're lifting walls and everything. There's no solution other than removing that, right?
Absolutely. No, you're 100%. And the only nice thing about the pine trees is once you cut them down, they die. Where some of the other trees will start to sprout, and then you're dealing with sprouts all over the yard.
Oh,
so
okay.
they do die, and then you stump grind it. But some also is that once that pine tree is removed, depending on how large it is, and you stump grind it, you're not planting anything back in that location without literally digging down and getting all that root and that whole stump out of there. I mean, you can plant it around it, but
what if you wanted to do concrete over paver walkways or something like that?
yeah, no problem. Just we own a stump grinder, so that sort of helps. So we get out there and we just grind all those roots down to get them down to where we can get a good basin and put in those pavers.
Yeah, that is very, I think the pine trees is one of the most common things I run into of lifting walls. And it is. I look at it and I'm like, wow, I bet when this house was built, that looked really awesome.
Yep.
And, it was probably 3 feet tall and they were just all perfectly spaced, but yeah, they grow.
And I think it's important for people to understand, just because the nursery sells it doesn't mean it's the right plant or tree for location and that. I mean, there's a lot you can go to the nursery and buy, and it'll say full sun, takes full sun, but
yeah,
no.
Yeah, that's not true. They don't understand Vegas sun. That's half the time. Even when I vegetable gardening is kind of like a little hobby of mine, and I'm always like, yeah, right. That's not. They don't know Vegas sun. That's a completely different thing from whoever manufactures those little tags on the plants.
Yep.
But yes, well. If somebody wants to ask some more questions, they want to talk to you about landscape, they want to design a project, anything, how do they reach you?
The best is to call my office at 702-566-4600. And Zari is my receptionist. She has control of my calendar, and and get me on the schedule, and I'll come out. And it's free. It's no obligation. Again, I think I give out some pretty good ideas. Yeah. And then that's simple as that.
All right, perfect. And you do curbing and all that stuff too?
No, we hire curbing out.
Okay.
there's not a lot of curbing that goes on.
There isn't. It's not popular these days. I just know for, I think it was for like the HOA was bidding it out. I tried to find like a company that did it. It was like, no one does
There's
it.
only, I deal with one company that does it, and they
Yeah.
have a minimum, so I try to shy. What we do a lot of is we'll do the pave, so if we're doing pavers on a project, we'll take that same paver and we'll paver border around either artificial grass.
And that's more popular these days
It
than
is,
curbing.
and it looks good. And we set it in concrete, so it's solid. It's not like the kids are going to kick it over. We set it in concrete with the footing, so it's pretty solid. And it sort of goes with the pavers that we do if we're doing the driveways or a walkway or whatever it is. That or just a simple bender board,
Oh, okay.
which looks clean and holds in the ground. But yeah, the curbing was I think something of the past when you're putting in grass and you want that they call it a mow curb around the grass area.
Yeah.
So I constantly try to talk people when we're taking grass out of, just look, let's take the curbing out. Most of them do it. Some of them say, no, I want the curbing in. I go, what? Yeah. But anyway, I like to do designs with chunky rock and do different sized
Yeah.
rocks. I'm not a big fan of contrasting colors of rocks. But I like to use the same colors, but again, contrast with sizes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, you can do a lot of make a landscape look really rich with rock colors. It's
Yep.
amazing what can be done with that. I've noticed that too. So great. So people can reach out to you. They can talk to you about projects. They can talk to you about questions, any things that they have. That's great. If you guys need to get any more information, you have an upcoming project, you're buying a new home, or you're remodeling the home that you have, and you want to make your outside look amazing, give Kane a call. And once again, thank you everybody for joining me on Realty Check with Trish Williams, and we look forward to seeing you guys again next week.